Full-time UPS drivers will soon earn an average of $170,000 a year. That's
Why UPS drivers make $170,000 per year and you don't. Headlines all over the country are in chaos, and the cause is something you wouldn't expect. Driving for UPS is going to be the new techie job because the company just agreed to a deal to pay their drivers as much as $170,000 a year. Is this too good to be true? Well, it might be. Are you still earning a killing? Definitely. Keep watching to find out the real deal behind this crazy news.
Full-time UPS drivers will now earn an average of $170,000 a year.
Money talks. UPS, the big shipping company, just dropped a hint that their profits for this year might not be as rosy as they hoped. One reason? They recently shook hands on a deal to give U.S. workers a pay bump, and it's starting to hit their bottom line. So, according to rumors, your average full-time UPS driver is going to be pulling in around $170,000 a year, including healthcare and perks by the end of a 5-year contract. That's a nice bump from the current $145,000, but this is all happening while the U.S. is grappling with its most serious inflation in 4 decades. Prices have jumped 3% in the past year, following a whopping 9% leap the year before. As living costs keep going up, household budgets are feeling the squeeze, and that's sparking more labor disputes. We're talking unionization campaigns at places like Starbucks and strikes happening left and right. Now, here is where it gets interesting. The Teamsters Union is making noise about a potential strike, and that has been giving UPS some headaches. Customers have been jumping ship, sending about 1 million packages a day to rival companies and costing UPS around $200 million in sales. During an investor call, UPS spilled the beans that this Teamsters deal, which workers are likely to give the thumbs up to this summer, will also put a dent in their profits. UPS has the largest unionized workforce in the US, and they're kind of known for offering some sweet compensation packages. Talk of their drivers making $40 an hour or more is making headlines all over the place. Before the new deal, the company was saying that drivers were pulling in about $95,000 a year on average, which comes out to roughly $42 an hour, plus another $50,000 in benefits. Now, with the Teamsters deal from last month, the starting pay for part-time folks got bumped up to $21 an hour. They also finally gave Martin Luther King Jr. Day off as a holiday in January and promised to make working conditions better, like throwing in air conditioning for those new delivery vehicles. For the drivers, the Teamsters Union, which looks out for more than 300,000 UPS folks, said this new contract will mean an extra $2.50 an hour this year and a cool $7.50 an hour over the next 5 years. Labor leaders were pretty pumped about this deal, and it's got workers at Amazon and other places thinking they should ask for a raise too. Economists are keeping a close eye on these pay raises because some of them are worried they might add to the ongoing inflation mess that started with pandemic supply issues and the Ukraine situation. Strike season. The summer of 2023 saw some pretty interesting stuff going down across the country. One of the biggest stories was the simultaneous strikes by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA, where Hollywood writers and actors decided to take a break from some major projects to protest streaming CEOs about their pay and worries about AI messing with their intellectual property. In the middle of all that drama, UPS managed to dodge a strike. During the summer, the longtime unionized package delivery company teamed up with the Teamsters for a few weeks to work out a new deal for over 340,000 union workers. This deal stopped the nationwide package shipment shutdown from happening. While people on social media were going on about how UPS drivers and workers could be making up to $170,000 a year, an actual UPS driver took to TikTok to lay out the real deal behind the pay bump. Skylar, a UPS driver you can find on TikTok as @SkylarLeeStutzman, is no ordinary delivery guy. He has been releasing a lot of content on the platform and setting the record straight about the whole UPS gig, especially the buzz around earning a whopping $170,000 a year.
How's that possible $170,000 a year feeling?
This is going to take longer than a minute to explain, so let's go about this the right way. Now, $170,000 a year is a bit of an exaggeration here, but let me break it down for you. Now, I don't know about you, but I love factual information, so I'm going to do my best to just be transparent about the wages that we make. Under current contract, our wage is $41.51 an hour. Now, this contract that has been seen all over social media, once that contract ratifies, which is in the voting process right now, we'll be making $44.26 an hour.
Spoiler alert, it's not quite that big of a payday. Skylar dubs that fat salary as a bit of a stretch and goes on to give us the lowdown on what UPS workers are really taking in. He gives us pretty rare insider knowledge about the money game in UPS. Under his current contract, he's pulling in a cool $41.51 an hour. With the new deal, it's a step up to $44.26 an hour. That works out to be around $92,000 a year, which is not too shabby. And don't forget, that's before we talk about overtime or the sweet benefits package. Now, that magical $170,000 a year everyone's talking about includes things like medical insurance and pension contributions. According to Skylar, the pension can tack on an extra $25,000. As for the medical benefits, he's not dishing out specifics, but he boldly claims that it would actually take about a $170,000 a year job to replace this one for me. To wrap it up, Skylar wants to set the record straight. The media might be making this deal sound like the Holy Grail, but it's still a big win for the union workers. And honestly, it's not far off from how great it is to work at UPS. So, other companies out there should definitely take a page from UPS's book and start valuing their unions like they do. When it comes to actors and writers pushing for better pay and job security, those studio big shots opposing the Hollywood strikes have basically said they'll hold off until union members are in some serious financial trouble before they'll agree to a fair deal. Unlike the brutal Hollywood companies, UPS managed to dodge such a disaster before a major strike could mess things up for everyone. Why the need for a strike? So why did the workers want to strike in the first place? Well, a situation that has been slowly developing on a larger scale might give us a clue. As the whole world deals with what Forbes is calling the Great Supply Chain Disruption, and the resulting challenges like consumer prices going up, one big headache is the serious shortage of truck drivers that keeps popping up. You see, roughly 72% of all the stuff moving around the US rides in trucks, and in 2021, the American Trucking Associations reported a record 80,000 driver shortfall. Back in 2019, there were more than 10 million Americans with commercial driver's licenses, which is 3 times the number of trucks waiting for drivers. So there are plenty of capable drivers out there who know how to handle those big rigs. That would have been the ideal situation if not for one little problem. Many of them don't want to drive. So why aren't they hitting the road? Well, it turns out there are a bunch of reasons behind it. Lots of people get into trucking, thinking it's a decent way to put food on the table. But once they're behind the wheel, they often find themselves dealing with lousy conditions, low pay, and sometimes not so great treatment. As a result, the trucking industry is losing some of its skilled, professional drivers to other gigs that offer better perks, fatter paychecks, and more job security. Like we mentioned before, there are more than enough qualified drivers to tackle the available trucks, but there are quite a few things holding them back. One of the big issues is low wages, and UPS is trying to tackle this problem. You see, truckers used to make some pretty decent cash for those long-haul trips, but those days are long gone. Deregulation shook things up in the transportation world, and now trucker salaries pretty much depend on whatever the market feels like paying. Some drivers end up making so little that all those long hours and time away from home just don't seem worth it. Another thing is that most drivers don't even get paid for all the hours they put in. They usually get paid per mile, not for all the extra time they spend behind the wheel or waiting around at loading docks, stuck in traffic, or dealing with other roadblocks. So it's no surprise that some drivers are looking for better opportunities elsewhere. Driving a truck can be a pretty risky job, with those long hours on the road and all. To handle it safely, truckers need to know what they're doing. They also have to deal with bad roads. lousy weather, and sketchy areas between where they start and where they're going. Sometimes, truckers have to carry stuff like chemicals that could be dangerous. They might get a little extra cash for hauling this stuff, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. If we don't figure out these problems, American truckers might start looking for other gigs outside of trucking. That's only going to make the shortage of drivers worse, and that's not good for the shipping and supply chain. Transport companies need to seriously think about how things are going and make life better for their drivers. If you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe for more. Where money matters, we'll see you on the next one.